The Stellar Defense Force vessel Horizon drifted silently through the Kuiper Belt, its sensors scanning the vast emptiness of space. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the command station, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display showing an anomaly that shouldn't exist. A structure, clearly artificial, floating in the darkness beyond Neptune's orbit. Analysis confirmed, Captain. Lieutenant Rivera reported from the science station. The object is approximately 3 kilometers in length, composed of unknown alloys. And it's active. Chen's fingers tightened on the railing. Humanity had spent centuries wondering if they were alone in the universe. Now, on a routine patrol of the solar system's edge, they had their answer. Take us closer, Helm. Maintain defensive posture. As the Horizon approached the mysterious structure, its surface began to shimmer with patterns of light. Before Chen could order a retreat, a beam of energy burst forth, engulfing their ship in a golden glow. The crew braced for destruction, but instead, a voice echoed through their minds. You have been observed, children of Earth. The Craxis Empire welcomes you to the galactic community. The first contact changed everything. Within months, Earth's governments united under the banner of the United Earth Coalition, facing the reality that humanity was a small fish in a very large pond. The Craxis Empire, a vast civilization spanning thousands of star systems, offered technology and knowledge in exchange for resources and cultural exchange. But not all was as it seemed. Dr. Marcus Wong, head of the Alien Technology Research Division, discovered disturbing patterns in the data streams the Craxis shared. They're holding back, he told the Coalition Security Council. The technical specifications they're giving us are incomplete, deliberately crippled. They're ensuring we remain dependent on them. Meanwhile, deep in the Australian outback, archaeologist Dr. Emily Foster made a discovery that would shatter the careful dance of diplomacy. In a cave system dating back 50,000 years, she found paintings depicting beings identical to the Craxis, alongside scenes of warfare and devastation. They've been here before, she announced to a stunned conference of world leaders. And whatever happened then, it wasn't peaceful. The Craxis ambassador, High Commander Zextal, dismissed the findings as primitive superstition. But surveillance satellites caught their ships making regular visits to remote locations around the globe, always at night, always to sites of ancient human settlements. The tension reached a breaking point when a young programmer named James Chen, Captain Chen's brother, cracked a portion of the Craxis communication codes. The messages he intercepted spoke of harvest cycles and specimen preparation. Humanity wasn't being welcomed to the galactic community. They were being assessed as cattle. Captain Chen stood before the Coalition Security Council, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. The Craxis aren't here as friends or mentors. They're preparing for invasion, and we need to act first. But as Earth prepared for war, a new player entered the game. A massive object, different from Craxis design, appeared in orbit around Mars. Its surface was covered in symbols that matched those found in ancient ruins worldwide. When it activated, it sent a message not just to Earth, but to every spacefaring race in the sector. The precursors return. The cycle begins anew. All will be remade. The Craxis fleet above Earth suddenly shifted their attention to this new threat. For the first time, humans saw fear in their alien visitors' eyes. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity, backed into a corner, was far more dangerous than anyone had anticipated. The stage was set for a conflict that would reshape the power dynamics of an entire galaxy, with humanity caught between ancient powers and modern empires. But in this crucible of conflict, Earth's children would prove that being the youngest race in space didn't make them the weakest. It made them the most adaptable, the most innovative, and ultimately, the most dangerous. The first shots of the war weren't fired by warships in space, but by data packets in the digital realm. James Chen's virus, dubbed Prometheus, tore through the Craxis fleet's communication systems, temporarily blinding their coordinated defense network. In those precious minutes of confusion, humanity revealed just how fast they could adapt. Hidden missile platforms, disguised as common communication satellites, emerged from their dormant states. Captain Sarah Chen, now Admiral, watched from the bridge of the UES Defiant as Earth's first coordinated strike against an alien power began. "For Earth," she whispered, then louder to her crew. "All batteries, fire." The Craxes hadn't expected such sophistication from a primitive species. Their shields, calibrated for energy weapons, proved surprisingly vulnerable to kinetic bombardment. Tungsten rods, accelerated to near-relativistic speeds, punched through their largest vessels like needles through fabric. High Commander Zextal's flagship erupted in a spectacular explosion, but not before broadcasting a final message to its fleet. "Initiate Protocol Omega. The harvest must proceed." The remaining Craxis ships began a bizarre transformation. Their sleek hulls split open like blooming flowers, revealing crystalline structures that pulsed with otherworldly energy. Dr. Wang, monitoring from his laboratory beneath Mount Fuji, recognized the technology from his research. "They're not just ships," he reported urgently to Coalition Command. "They're terraforming engines. They're trying to change Earth itself." But before the Craxes could complete their protocol, the massive precursor artifact near Mars activated again. A wave of energy swept through the solar system, temporarily disrupting all advanced technology. When systems came back online, the artifact had vanished, leaving behind a chilling message carved into Mars' surface, visible from orbit. "The testing begins." From the outer edges of the solar system came new signals. Massive ships, dwarfing even the largest Craxis vessels, emerged from fold space. The precursors, an ancient race thought long extinct, had returned. Their first act was to methodically destroy every Craxis ship in the system, their weapons bypassing shields, as if they didn't exist. Admiral Chen made a decision that would change the course of history. Rather than flee or surrender, she ordered the Defiant to rescue survivors from the destroyed Craxis vessels. "We're better than them," she declared to her hesitant crew. "We fight our enemies, but we don't abandon them to genocide." Among the rescued was Sub-Commander Rixna, Zextal's second-in-command. As medical teams treated her injuries, she revealed the truth. The Craxis weren't an empire, but refugees, fleeing across the galaxy from the returning precursors. Their harvest cycles were desperate attempts to build up forces and resources before the ancient enemy found them again. "You don't understand," Rixna told a stunned Coalition Security Council. "The precursors seeded this galaxy with life eons ago. Every few million years, they return to test their creations. Species that fail their tests are erased, their worlds repurposed for new evolutionary experiments. The Craxis faced their tests 10,000 years ago. We've been running ever since." Dr. Foster's archaeological findings suddenly made terrible sense. The ancient cave paintings weren't depicting an invasion, but a rescue. The Craxis had visited Earth before, warning humanity's ancestors about the coming tests. But time and culture had transformed their message into myth and legend. Meanwhile, the precursor ships took up positions around Earth. Their message was simple. Humanity would be the first species tested in this cycle. They had one standard year to prove their worth, or face extinction. The Coalition Security Council met in emergency session. Admiral Chen's voice cut through the panic. "They want to test us. Fine, but they'll learn what every schoolyard bully eventually discovers. When you push humans into a corner, we don't cower. We innovate. We adapt. And we fight back." Rixna, still recovering from her injuries, watched the humans prepare for war with a mixture of pity and hope. Her people had run from the precursors for millennia. Perhaps these young, unpredictable humans would find another way. Earth's leaders were already proposing an audacious plan. Unite with the remaining Craxis forces, pool their knowledge, and do what no species had done before: pass the precursors' test by beating them at their own game. As battle plans were drawn and alliances forged, one thing became clear: the galaxy wasn't ready for humanity's unique approach to survival. The storm hadn't just broken. It was about to become a hurricane. In the depths of the Cheyenne Mountain complex, Dr. Marcus Wong stared at the holographic display with bloodshot eyes. Next to him, Rixna traced patterns in the complex mathematical models with her four-fingered hand. The unlikely pair had been working for weeks to understand the precursor's technology. "It's not about advanced engineering," Wong muttered, his 10th cup of coffee growing cold beside him. "Their tech doesn't follow our laws of physics because they're not from our universe. They're breaking in from outside." Rixna nodded slowly. "My people spent thousands of years trying to match their power. We never considered they might be playing by different rules entirely." The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Emily Foster, comparing ancient cave paintings with modern sensor readings, noticed a pattern. "Look at these wavelengths," she pointed to her tablet. "The precursor ships don't just ignore our shields. They ignore our entire dimension. Their phase shifted just slightly out of sync with our reality." This revelation sparked humanity's first major innovation. Using reversed-engineered Craxus quantum technology, combined with Earth's experimental phase shift research, they developed the Ghost Protocol, a way to partially shift their ships into the same dimensional frequency as the precursors. Admiral Chen watched from the Defiant as the first test of Ghost Protocol was conducted. A small corvette, piloted by volunteers, activated the experimental device. The ship seemed to blur, its edges becoming indistinct. When a precursor scout ship fired upon it, their typically unstoppable weapons passed harmlessly through. "It works," Chen breathed. Then Cater calm. "All ships, prepare for Phase 1 of Operation Prometheus." The combined human Craxus fleet had been hiding in the Kuiper Belt, using the ice and debris for cover. Now they moved into position, their ships equipped with the new phase shift technology. But humanity wasn't content to just defend. They had bigger plans. James Chen, working with Craxus engineers, had developed a computer virus unlike anything seen before. If the precursors existed partially outside normal spacetime, the virus would too. They called it Pandora, and it was designed to infect systems operating on multiple dimensional frequencies simultaneously. The first major battle under the new protocols changed everything. When precursor ships arrived to begin their testing of a human colony on Mars, they found themselves facing an enemy they couldn't simply erase from existence. The human Craxus fleet, phase-shifted and armed with conventional and dimensional weapons, struck from multiple vectors. "Remember," Admiral Chen's voice carried across all channels, "we're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're fighting for every species they've ever tested, every civilization they've erased. Today we show them that evolution cuts both ways." The battle was fierce. Even with the new technology, the precursors were incredibly powerful. But for the first time in their long history of testing species, they were taking significant losses. Human ships, smaller and more maneuverable, darted between their massive vessels, launching physical and digital attacks. Craxus ships provided heavy fire support, their traditional energy weapons now modified to operate on multiple phase frequencies. The turning point came when a team led by James Chen managed to infiltrate a precursor vessel. Using personal phase shift devices, they boarded the massive ship and deployed Pandora directly into its systems. The virus spread rapidly through the precursor network, causing their ships to lose dimensional stability. But victory came at a cost. The infected precursor ships began to destabilize catastrophically, their matter caught between dimensions. The human Craxus fleet had to retreat quickly as the enemy vessels imploded, creating temporary rifts in spacetime. In the aftermath, Dr. Wong made another startling discovery. The precursors weren't just testing species, they were harvesting unique evolutionary traits, storing them in vast biological databases. Each species they erased had their genetic and cultural information absorbed and archived. They're collectors, Foster realized, examining data recovered from the destroyed ships. They seed worlds, wait for interesting adaptations to evolve, then harvest them. We're not failing their tests. We're being harvested for our unique traits. This revelation led to a new understanding of their enemy and a new determination to stop them. Humanity and the Craxus began preparing for a larger confrontation, knowing the precursors would return in greater numbers once they realized their harvesting fleet had been destroyed. Rixna, watching Earth's cities at night from the observation deck of a Craxus station, spoke quietly to Admiral Chen. "In all our running, we never thought to question why they were pursuing us. Your species looked at the same enemy and immediately asked why before asking, how do we run? That's what makes you different." Chen smiled grimly. "Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our adaptability. It's our stubborn refusal to accept impossibility. The precursors think they're studying evolution. Let's show them what forced evolution looks like when it's backed into a corner." As if in response to her words, alerts began blaring throughout the station. Long-range sensors had detected multiple dimensional rifts forming at the edge of the solar system. The precursors were returning, and this time they were bringing an armada. The dimensional rifts bloomed like dark flowers across space, each one disgorging massive precursor vessels. The combined human Craxus defense fleet held position behind Mars, using the red planet's bulk to mask their energy signatures. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching the tactical display with steady eyes. "They'd brought enough ships to harvest a dozen worlds," Rixna observed, her voice tight with tension. The Craxus commander had become Chen's unofficial second-in-command, bridging the gap between human intuition and Craxus experience. "Good," Chen replied, surprising her alien counterpart. "That means they're taking us seriously. All ships, initiate Ghost Protocol. Prepare to execute Operation Ragnarok." Humanity's scientists had been working around the clock since the last encounter, improving their phase shift technology. Dr. Wang's team had made a crucial discovery. The precursor's dimensional shifting wasn't perfect. Each transition between realities created microscopic instabilities, tears in the fabric of space-time. The human Craxus fleet had been modified to exploit these tears. James Chen's Pandora virus had been updated, designed now not just to infect, but to amplify these dimensional instabilities. But deploying it would require getting dangerously close to the precursor ships. "First wave, move out," Chen ordered. A group of smaller, faster ships, crewed by volunteers, broke formation and accelerated toward the enemy fleet. Each carried a prototype weapon dubbed the Reality Anchor, designed to temporarily force precursor ships to remain in normal space. The precursors responded with overwhelming force, their energy weapons cutting through space. But the human ships were ready. Using their improved phase shift technology, they became nearly impossible to target, appearing to split into multiple ghost images across different dimensional frequencies. "Second wave, commence attack pattern Delta," Chen commanded. Larger vessels, combining human and Craxus technology, moved forward. They carried conventional weapons modified with phase shift technology, allowing them to harm the precursor ships even in their partially shifted state. The battle quickly became chaotic. Space itself seemed to warp and twist as ships fought across multiple dimensional frequencies. The human Craxus fleet was outnumbered, but they had something the precursors had never encountered before: unpredictability. Dr. Foster, monitoring the battle from Earth, noticed something in the sensor data. The precursors. They're following patterns. Complex ones, but patterns nonetheless. They've been doing this so long, they've become predictable. This information was quickly relayed to the fleet. Human tactical officers began identifying and exploiting these patterns, while Craxus gunners used their centuries of experience to maximize damage. The combined force began inflicting serious losses on the precursor fleet. But the enemy adapted quickly. Their ships began changing configuration, sprouting new weapons and defenses. They're incorporating tactical data from every species they've harvested, Wang reported, analyzing the sensor feeds. They're learning from us in real time. The turning point came when a precursor supercarrier, larger than anything they'd seen before, emerged from the largest rift. Its presence seemed to strengthen the other precursor ships, coordinating their attacks with terrifying efficiency. James Chen, leading a small team aboard a stealth ship, recognized the opportunity. That's their command and control center. It's not just coordinating the fleet. It's storing all their harvested data, their entire collection of stolen evolution. Admiral Chen knew what had to be done. All ships, execute Protocol Omega. Focus fire on these coordinates. The entire human Craxus fleet began moving in complex patterns, drawing precursor forces away from their supercarrier. James's team, using their ship's enhanced stealth systems and phase-shifting technology, managed to slip through the chaos. They docked with a massive precursor vessel, their presence masked by the surrounding battle. What they found inside shocked them. The ship was a vast biological database, containing the distilled essence of countless civilizations. The precursors hadn't just been collecting genetic samples, they had been absorbing entire species' worth of knowledge, technology, and cultural information. "We can't let them keep this," James transmitted to his sister. "These aren't specimens, they're prisoners. Entire civilizations trapped in digital amber." The team began uploading a modified version of the Pandora virus directly into the database, but the precursors detected them. As security systems activated and reality began warping around them, James made a final transmission. "The virus is uploading. When it finishes, it'll cause a cascading dimensional collapse. Get the fleet clear." Admiral Chen watched as her brother's signal vanished. The supercarrier began to glow with impossible colors as the virus spread through its systems. "All ships, emergency withdrawal. Get clear of the dimensional shockwave." The precursor supercarrier imploded, creating a massive dimensional rift that began pulling in nearby ships. The human Craxus fleet retreated to safe distance, watching as a significant portion of the precursor armada was dragged into the collapsing rift. In the aftermath, something unprecedented happened. The remaining precursor ships didn't retreat through dimensional rifts. Instead, they simply powered down, becoming inactive hulks floating in space. Dr. Wang's analysis provided the answer. The virus didn't just destroy their command ship, it freed every species they'd harvested. All that knowledge, all those patterns they relied on, gone. For the first time in their existence, the precursors don't have access to countless civilizations' worth of tactical data. The cost had been high. Many good people, both human and Craxus, had been lost. But they had achieved what no species had managed in millions of years. They had broken the precursors' cycle of harvest and testing. As rescue operations began and teams prepared to board the dormant precursor vessels, Admiral Chen stood at the observation window of the Defiant, her hand pressed against the cold glass. "We did it, little brother," she whispered. "We showed them what real evolution looks like." 1 year after the Battle of Seoul, as historians would come to call it, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The dormant precursor ships had yielded technological secrets beyond imagination, but more importantly, they contained something precious. Backup copies of data from countless civilizations the precursors had harvested over millions of years. Dr. Emily Foster stood in the newly constructed Galactic Heritage Center in Geneva, surrounded by holograms depicting species long thought lost to time. "We couldn't bring them back physically," she explained to a group of human and Craxus students, "but we could preserve their knowledge, their culture, their stories." The Craxus, no longer running from their ancient enemy, had settled into a surprising new role as teachers and guides for younger civilizations. Rixna, now serving as ambassador to Earth, worked tirelessly to help integrate recovered technologies safely into developing societies. "The precursors' greatest mistake," she often said, "was thinking evolution was something they could control and harvest. They never understood that true evolution happens through cooperation and challenge, not collection and testing." In orbit above Earth, the massive shipyards worked continuously, building vessels that combined human ingenuity, Craxus experience, and carefully adapted precursor technology. These ships weren't meant for war, but for exploration and contact with other civilizations that had hidden from the precursors for millennia. Dr. Marcus Wong led the research team studying the remaining precursor vessels. Their discoveries were reshaping understanding of physics itself. They were so advanced, he noted in his journal, that they became trapped by their own perfection. They stopped evolving because they thought they could control evolution itself. Admiral Sarah Chen, now fleet commander of the newly formed Galactic Defense Force, kept a small hologram on her desk. It showed her brother James in his academy graduation uniform, smiling at a future he would never see. His sacrifice had not been in vain. The Pandora virus had not only freed the trapped civilizations, but had fundamentally altered the precursors themselves. The few precursors that survived, cut off from their vast database of harvested knowledge, experienced something they hadn't known in millions of years: the need to adapt. Their ships, once mighty war machines, had transformed into biological research vessels. They requested, for the first time in their existence, permission to learn rather than test. "We were wrong," their message had said, transmitted in every known language. Evolution is not something to be harvested and stored. It is a force that requires freedom to function. We asked to study, not to judge. The response, drafted jointly by human and Craxus leaders, was simple. You may observe and learn, but never interfere. This is your test now. The galaxy entered a new age of exploration and discovery. Ships carrying mixed crews of humans, Craxus, and representatives from newly contacted species ventured into the unknown regions of space. They carried with them the lessons learned from the conflict. That strength comes in many forms, that adaptation is more powerful than accumulation, and that sometimes the youngest civilizations can teach the oldest ones new tricks. James Chen's final message, recovered from his ship's black box, became a motto for this new era. Evolution isn't about being the strongest or the most advanced. It's about being able to change, to grow, to face the impossible, and find a way forward. In the decades that followed, humanity's influence spread not through conquest or dominance, but through their unique ability to innovate, adapt, and bring different species together. The Craxus, once so rigid in their ways, learned to embrace change. Other species, emerging from hiding, brought their own strengths to this new galactic community. On the 10th anniversary of the Battle of Seoul, Admiral Chen stood before a vast audience of multiple species. Behind her, a memorial wall listed the names of all those who had fallen in the conflict: human, Craxus, and eventually, even the reformed precursors who had chosen to help rather than harvest. "We came into this galaxy thinking we were alone," she said, her voice carrying across the assembly. "We learned quickly that we weren't. But what we discovered, what we helped everyone discover, was that being advanced doesn't mean being perfect. It means being willing to change, to learn, and sometimes to admit when you're wrong." The precursor ships that still floated dormant in space were gradually being transformed into research stations and museums, their vast chambers now hosting scientists and students from across the galaxy. Each one stood as a reminder of what happened when evolution was treated as a resource to be harvested rather than a force to be embraced. In the end, humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy wasn't their technology, their tactics, or even their victory over the precursors. It was their demonstration that true strength lies not in perfection, but in the ability to adapt, to change, and to bring others along on that journey of growth and discovery. As night fell on Earth, lights from countless ships twinkled in the sky, a testament to a galaxy no longer hidden in fear, but united in the pursuit of knowledge and understanding. The universe, vast and mysterious, beckoned with new challenges and opportunities, and humanity, young but tested, stood ready to face whatever came next, not alone, but as part of something greater than themselves.